Alright! Smallville Season 2. This was an excellent follow-up to the first season. Like, I marathoned that season in just a few days, and I'd actually argue that that season is better than the first. For quite a few reasons, because it took all the pros that I had from the first season and then it improved upon them, because, the supporting characters, we still, care about them, and we care about them even more because they have story arcs here that don't relate to Clark at all. Because, you've got Lex dating the Doctor, Chick, him dealing with his father, then you've got Lana trying to discover who her real biological father is. You've got Chloe trying to deal with other things that are going around her feelings with Clark, and then also being, left out of the loop when it comes to everything, and then her investigating her wall of weird stuff. That's all good. Pete struggling with eventually learning about Clark's secret and trying to help the Kents out. The Kents dealing with the Lufers and other difficulties. Yeah, it's nice to, see Clark take the back seat a little bit, although usually it's just another story going on in an episode where he's also dealing with something, but shows can easily deal with multiple story arcs in an episode. They do it all the time, right? What else to mention? Oh yeah, then the real life emotions that I'm feeling here, because of all these other story arcs, this season does have more negative moments, but this is a case where it's actually good to have more of those, because it feels, very realistic. We sympathize for all the characters, and, it's just people struggling with life issues, because, like, Chloe, for instance, okay, like, we all knew at the start of this season, heck, even in Season 1 where it's first starting to be mentioned, that she has feelings for Clark. We all know that it's going to end up as Clarkverse. As Clarkverse, what? Clark is going to end up with Lana here. We all know that that's going to happen, but at the same time, I, at least, am genuinely feeling for Chloe because she's technically done nothing wrong. She just has feelings for somebody that she just doesn't have a chance with, and that's what happened to me with my real life crushes. Even though once I realized I had a crush on them, I'm like, okay, I gotta lose these feelings, right? But yeah, I do feel for her here, even though this is close to the typical love triangle out there, albeit it's not so much Chloe and Lana fighting for Clark, because we all know what Clark wants to who Clark wants to choose. Even Chloe knows that it's more they were both arguing, can Clark really commit to anyone, especially since he doesn't tell them about his powers. And I'm surprised that neither of them, suspect him of having those powers over the course of the season. Or they did. I completely forgot about that. But then you've got the bit where he reveals his powers to Pete, and that, I think, was actually a good move, even though Pete's reaction after that is understandable, not trusting Clark for a while there, because, yeah, if you find out someone's lied to you like that many times about something that big, it's tough. Yeah. Now, granted, I don't have any big secrets like that, but if I learned that someone lied to me about something that's that big, yeah, that would be tough. And I don't think you can use the argument that, not me, I'm putting this in quotes here, that if some character announces to you that you're gay, I don't think that's the same, but hey, whatever, that's not what we're going to talk about. And then the expansion of the superpower mythos, because we have Christopher Reeve in a nice one-episode appearance here trying to help Clark out and disclosing to him bits about its origin, because, you learn about Krypton, or at least, where it used to be, and then that the meteor fragment was actually kryptonite, and then I believe this season introduced us to red kryptonite, which was nice, because I'd actually completely forgotten about that until I saw it, and then I'm like, oh yeah! Right. And then I have to comment on this. Once I learned that actually the voice of jor-el is Terrence Stamp, that was hilarious. And I could have sworn that I saw a little bit where someone mentioned in the comments that Terrence Stamp had to actually go to a Comic-Con and explain that I am not General Zod pretending to be Jor-El. I really am Jor-El. Nice. And yeah. And I find it really interesting how that, that small piece of the ship actually mattered so much this season. Nice. And then Lionel Luthor, I was actually surprised, that they didn't kill him off. Because I think for sure he's gonna get killed off on this thing eventually, just because Lex is gonna have to descend into cruelty eventually. Now, one would argue that he's pretty cruel already. Okay, but you can tell that he doesn't necessarily want to be, but as he mentions at some point, I think in here that, maybe I'm just predisposed to be this way. Yeah. So it's going to be real interesting to see how long he continues to matter here. Right. Oh yeah, and I also love how you brought back a lot of characters from the first season back in here, because like that chick who can morph into anybody's form that she chooses to, and then you also had one or two other people, although I forget their names, right? Now, yeah. And it was also nice that they continued to develop the Lon and Whitney's story arc, although she did do what I kind of expected her to do and broke things off with him, because Season 1 indicated that there was a darn good possibility of that happening, and also, I think people forget that once you join the military and you actually, get deployed, generally you're gone pretty much all the time for at least a couple of years, and that can put a strain on tons of relationships that aren't, fully married and all that stuff, and heck, even marriages do have that strain, so yeah, but using what is believed to be Whitney in a story arc here, that was very clever, and since the only time that we saw or really heard of him was when it wasn't actually him, I think we can assume that he truly is missing in action, but if they want to announce that he actually was found sometime later, they could do that, but if it doesn't happen in next season, I don't think they can do it then. After that, right? So that's about it for the stuff that I liked, but there were issues that I disliked, because, for instance, the instigator of Lana trying to figure out who her real father is, I actually missed that, and when I saw this character, I just don't really feel like it mattered too much, because, like, his decision to all of a sudden go through with the DNA testing or something like that to help out Lana just happens like that. Now, don't get me wrong, in real life, that does happen all the time, okay? But on a TV show, you usually need more justification than that. Especially since that guy hadn't been a part of anyone's story arc besides, Lana trying to figure out who her father was. Now, he did end up helping the Kents in a later episode, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel this guy. Then, the last couple of episodes, those were the big issues I've got with this season, because there, it felt like they were trying to cram a little bit much. Now, don't get me wrong, I realized that they were setting up huge cliffhangers for this season, but the moment I saw those, I'm like, I bet that the only cliffhanger I'm going to enjoy here is figuring out how they get Clark back and away from the Red Kryptonite, because I sincerely bet that what they're going to do with Legs is not going to be that spectacular by comparison. I honestly bet that he's got a much simpler solution up his sleeve with, how he's being portrayed by either the Amanda chick or his father, right? Just not looking forward to that, yeah. And then I thought there was one other tiny dislike. Oh yeah, the teacher in the episode where Clark discovers his heat division just, I mean, like, I did laugh a little bit, but at the same time, just, I don't know, there was just something about that just made me go, is this really necessary? It reminded me of when I watched the first couple seasons of Supernatural, and they had all those hot chicks in there. Now, don't get me wrong, this show is a little more appropriate for hot girls, but, just, yeah. I don't know. That was kind of odd. But don't get me wrong, this was an excellent follow-up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in Season 3. I've got it queued up right now. Well, see you next time.